Hi everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp and to a roundup of what was a very good month last month.
Was indeed, yeah. So we reviewed, about 12 games in total actually, but we've got the top 10 scores here for the month that would have been October, starting with the lowest and ending with the highest, funnily enough.
You might find many of these games physically over at PlayAsia, so you can use our discount code to get a discount there. We also have our eShop credit over at switchup.gg, where you can save 10% in total. All the info and details are down in the description. Alright, what were the best games of last month? Well, let's find out.
So starting in 10th place then, we had Kona II.
Yeah, Kona II interestingly got a smaller review within our new Buy or Avoid series. Well, it's not new, but it's kind of had a revisit. Has it? A revamp, exactly. Yeah. And if you played the original Kona 1, essentially it's set within the Canadian tundra, right, I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. And you start off on a boat. Something happens, I don't want to spoil it, but you end up continuing the investigation from the first game. So straight off the bat, if you haven't played Kona 1, it's pointless even really looking into this one. Right. It's very much a continuation of the story, but they're trying to wrap up the loose ends they left from that game. But as I was saying to Glen before, it has the feeling of the film The Shining.
Right.
You go to this mansion and it's obviously snowing heavily, and you're kind of walking around the grounds and you're almost expecting to see the maze, you know?
Yeah. Jack Nicholson's sitting there with that grin.
Exactly. And it does have a little bit of a supernatural feel to it at times, but it doesn't go too far with that. It's very much psychological scares and things.
Nice. Yeah.
There is some combat, and sometimes games put combat in where it isn't needed.
Yeah, 100%, especially in horror games, I find, And
because it's not good combat.
Yeah.
And that was really what brought the score down, because the storytelling was amazing. There was a moment when I was in the grounds of the house and I was looking at the gravestones, weird, and I noticed one was from like his wife. And then when I was in the house, I found her diary, and you kind of piece things together for yourself. And it's not intrinsic to the storyline, but it's just building that world.
World building, absolutely, yeah.
It got a SwitchUp score of 70%.
Lovely. Well, keeping with the theme of horror, I suppose appropriate for the month of October, we had Dementium The Ward in 9th place. Now, this is a game that released on the DS, I believe it was, first time round. It got a 3DS release after that, and obviously it's now made its way onto the Switch.
So this, I saw this back on, a lot of people have been playing this on Twitter, you know, the original and things like that. I mean, it does look very similar to the original, but obviously it's running at 60 FPS, isn't it?
It is, and in terms of what you're in for, it's set in an abandoned hospital, you know, the classic kind of you wake up, no knowledge of how you got there, piece it all together, you know, that old caper. Now, in terms of the game itself, it is very enjoyable. The biggest issues I had with it is that, first and foremost, you can only ever have either your torch or your weapon out. You can't ever have both. Now, in terms of building suspense, I can understand that decision. But in terms of practicality of playing, it becomes very frustrating when you know there's an enemy just in front of you.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen you. You want to take that shot, but you've got to put your torch away to take the gun out. Now you can't see him at all, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the older games did stuff like that, didn't it? Intentionally, but yeah.
They did. Its other problem, which isn't its fault, I guess, is that when it released on the DS, obviously it didn't have much competition. A first-person horror shooter. It's got lots of competition these days, you know? It's still a decent game. It's one that I would recommend a sale. And on balance, it got a SwitchUp score of 71%.
Then we've got one of the best collections of games ever, really. And it's the Metal Gear Solid collection that just released on the Nintendo Switch. And we did a review on all of these games. Now, obviously the focus for me was the performance, you know, how have they adapted it, what have they changed? I wasn't overly impressed, and I don't think a lot of people were. Now, I know, you know, it's fair to say, look, this is a direct port. So you've got Metal Gear Solid 1, which was the one that I was really looking forward to. I remember picking that up on PlayStation from Dixon's, you know, I remember all of that.
Yeah.
But it looks so bad. Because if you take that resolution that it ran at originally, and you stretch it over a modern 4K telly, like, it looks bad. They didn't even upscale it. Like, they could have just run it through an upscaling, like render it, anything. Didn't do anything, basically. And then they took the second and third games, and that ran at 60 frames per second back on PlayStation 3. I'm sure that's right. And then put those down to 30. And then when I was capturing frame rates, I noticed that in certain situations where they hadn't locked it, it would go back up to 60.
Right.
So it's weird.
It's just a bit odd, isn't it?
Really odd.
Do you know what intrigues me most about this collection, which certainly doesn't make it worth the price for me personally, is that it's the two Metal Gear games, not the Solid games.
The OGs.
The OGs from the MSX, because obviously, generally, when you get the older games, it's the NES version. So to have the MSX versions is actually the part I'd most want to play. You know?
They were really good. There was another couple of games, I can't remember the name of them, like it didn't even feel like the same genre. It was bad. One of them was bad, really bad. But anyway, like if you want the Metal Gear Solid games, forget my complaints because they run just fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the second and third games, they look really actually quite good. So yeah, if you want them, get them. They're still amazing. But overall, in terms of review scores, it got a SwitchUp score of 75%.
Moving into 7th place then, we have Sonic Superstars. Now it was quite odd that you had both Sonic and Mario last month with a brand new game within a few days of each other, releasing within a few days of each other. It felt like the console wars of the 90s.
Yeah, and they lost.
Well, yeah. I mean, in terms of this new Sonic game then, well, it does a lot of the classic things that you'd want a Sonic game to do. Mm-hmm. It has its own unique gimmick, for want of a better word. Now, what I will say about this game, and give it major credit for, is that a lot of the Sonic games over the years have included some sort of gimmick, and it has really dragged the gameplay down.
Yeah.
Whereas this one doesn't do that, so that's obviously a major plus. And the game is a lot of fun. The problem is it's just horrifically expensive. £55 for a 2D platform game, you know?
Yeah, well, yeah. When you're more expensive than the other aforementioned game, you're in trouble, aren't you?
Yeah, for sure. So that obviously impacted the score. If you're finding it physically cheaper or whatnot, then obviously that's going to impact it positively. But with that in mind, this got 77%. In 6th place then, we had EA Sports FC 24, formerly known as FIFA, of course, and probably going to be called FIFA for the rest of this segment. Yeah. So this is obviously the latest in the long-running series, albeit with a name change. In terms of losing that license, hence the change, it hasn't really impacted the game much at all.
No, but this is the first proper FIFA we've had on Switch.
It is indeed. It obviously uses the Frostbite engine and isn't a legacy edition, which of the games on the Switch, I think 18 and 19 weren't legacy editions, and obviously this one is the first one since those. Now, it runs at 30 frames per second. I believe some of the previous ones did run at 60, so that's something to bear in mind in terms of, you know, what the Frostbite engine, having it on the Switch, has meant. But in terms of how it looks, it does look a lot better. You know, a lot of the kind of the soulless eyes and odd hair of the previous games have been rectified to a degree, and it certainly still runs well enough to play and enjoy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You looked at me when you said soulless eyes and plasticine hair. It's out of order. Get out.
It's not true. It's not true.
But to be fair, you don't need... someone's going to get annoyed, but I played it and it didn't feel like I needed 60 in a football game, but, you know, maybe you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just worth knowing, isn't it? If you feel you do need it, then it doesn't have it here, so don't apply, you know? But I still find it very enjoyable. It has all of the modes of the other console versions, including a fully fleshed Ultimate Team this time round.
Yeah.
I found it the best one in a good few years, to be fair, certainly on this console, and it got a SwitchUp score of 80%.
Next up then, we've got Hot Wheels Unleashed 2, which I reviewed on the channel. I didn't actually play much of the first one. I bought it on a sale and played like an hour or two and thought, yeah, this is pretty decent. When the next one comes out, I'll kind of give it a proper bash. And yeah, I thought it was a good game. I enjoyed it. As always with Switch, one of the negatives is performance, but in terms of the game, it's one of the best races we've got. Like, it has nice controls, there's drift mechanics in there. The thing that will always hook me, and I'm a bit weird in that way, is I love designing tracks and levels and things like that. And here, the level design is incredibly good. You're given the sandbox rooms, you've got the large arcade, you've got the outside world. You're just given complete free reign to do whatever you want, create what you want, and then post that online. And for some reason, I get a lot of pleasure out of that. It's not an easy game, you know, it's targeted at kids, and there are a few accessibility options, thankfully, like keeping you on the track and helping you accelerate. Still not an easy game, and I don't think the first was either. But overall, if you want a decent racer on Switch, and you can find it, I'd say maybe in a sale, this one got a SwitchUp score of 82%.
Moving into the top 4 now, and you'll see quite a jump in scores from this point onwards. And in 4th place, we had Company of Heroes.
Did you ever play Company of Heroes?
No, I wasn't a big PC gamer, and the only RTS games I really played back then were the Command & Conquer games.
Oh, which annoys me whenever I hear it, because I'm like, release that and you're going to make a load of money.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
It's like free money.
Absolutely.
Come on, isn't that EA who own the license?
I'm not sure. It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest.
They love money.
They do like money, yeah, they do.
So Company of Heroes, it did have a mobile release, so there's a lot of people that say, you know, it's not surprising that it's on the Switch. Let's be honest, mobile phones are more powerful than the Switch, but still, it was nice to see it, and the amount of work that's been put into the controls really impressed me.
Yeah.
So you've got radial wheels for everything. But then you've got like quick grouping of your troops and stuff. It just makes it as easy as it can be while using a joystick and a controller. The games themselves, they hold up just as well. If you like films like Saving Private Ryan, it's basically like the game version of that. You even fight a lot of the same campaigns. The Normandy beach landing is stand out. It's done really well, and it's grim as well. You know, it's not what this doesn't do. It doesn't glorify war. You know, it makes you think that's hideous because they're all like screaming and talking and stuff, and then one will die and they'll be like rolling around on the floor. Usually it's like, you know, bombastic and stuff. Here it's like the opposite of that. Brilliant games. All of the campaigns, all of the expansions. A great way of playing it if you've never played it before, and it got a SwitchUp score of 87%.
There we go, 87, right into the top 3. And in third place, perhaps a surprise, certainly by the name of it at least, was Dave the Diver.
Yeah, by the review, you can see it's got a big following behind it.
Yeah,
you know, the
absolutely.
views have kind of gone up and up. And it's just such a good game. I think what these guys did well was sticking that demo out nice and early, because they had a big group of people go, oh my goodness, this is amazing. There's also a bit of lore. I don't know if you heard the start of the review. The what's his name? The director of this game. He actually knew someone that ran a little bar and then went out fishing.
Nice.
So yeah, he took his inspiration clearly, and it's got a lot more depth than you would initially think. They keep adding systems as well throughout the playtime. It never kind of rests on its laurels. And there's a nice story as well, and it made me laugh out loud, which always gets an extra point in my book.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those that obviously if you know about it, it's been out elsewhere, you're going to know what you're getting. But if you don't, and you just read that title, you might just move on past, you know. But if you read the blurb in the eShop, which I obviously did for the upcoming, I didn't review it, but I thought, this sounds the business. You know, there's some interesting mechanics going on here.
Yeah,
you know?
it is the business, the sushi business.
The sushi business, exactly right.
It got a SwitchUp score of 90%, definitely a 90% game.
Lovely stuff. Right, into the top 2, and in second place for the month of October was Wargroove 2.
Oh, I forgot about Wargroove 2. Was that this month?
That was indeed, yeah.
Wow, okay. This is another one where I think either you or Dave reviewed the first one. I can't even remember.
I don't think we reviewed it.
Oh, did we not?
At all. I remember it being in a video, I think it was one of my physical games videos where I picked it up and, you know, kind of waxed lyrical about it. Very good game. And at the time that came out, obviously there was no Advance Wars on the Switch. Yeah. So it just, not just filled the hole, because that doesn't do it justice, but it was something that was so desperately needed. Yeah. And it was such a good game, you know?
Yeah, so, obviously I reviewed this one. In terms of having played the original, again, I've probably played a short amount. I mean, I bought it on sale after it came out. You know how it is. You kind of get distracted after a couple of hours. But this one, it just does everything dialed up. Yeah. You know, the campaigns are better. There's more detail. The designer is better. There are a couple of little quirky bugs here and there, but nothing major in my opinion, especially now that they've patched it up. If you're after that Advance Wars style, then you're going to enjoy this. It's just easy to control while still being strategic. You know, if you're attacking a building, obviously the person on the inside has the advantage, but once you've taken that over, you can use that to replenish your troops. So there's all the risk and reward constantly, and I like the little story segments that happen during combat. It's brilliant, really good game. It got a SwitchUp score of 92%.
And in first place then, for the month, we had Super Mario Wonder. Now obviously we mentioned Sonic further down the list, and Mario had a new game out this month too, and this is 100% a return to form. You know, as far as I'm concerned, this is the best Mario game, certainly 2D, since Super Mario World.
Can you explain the mechanic? What's this mechanic everyone's going on about?
So the mechanic of the game is the Wonder Seeds or the Wonder Flowers, and basically within a level you'll find these flowers, sometimes very obvious to see, other times kind of hidden away. If you touch it, it will then start a segment of the level where everything changes. Okay. Things can become quite wacky, quite whimsical. You know, piranha plants might start singing. It might be you have a time limit to escape a stampede. You know, there are so many different things that could happen, and you have to touch the seed a second time to earn it and to return the level back to normal. Okay. Now, when I saw the trailers for this, I'll be honest, I don't pay much attention to trailers anymore, because I like to go into games, you know, fresh, without too much prior knowledge. And I assumed that this was going to be heavily based around that mechanic. And whilst it is in terms of, obviously, it's always there, it's not that at all that makes the game for me. It's the general structure of the levels. Yeah. It's got some of the best level design in a Mario game for a long, long time, you know? And it's that, really, that meant that it got a score that, you know, as high as it did in the end. It's just so wonderfully constructed. You can almost speedrun levels.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something, funnily enough, you would associate more with Sonic, say. But they're just so well designed. There's a few different characters you can play as. Because they've moved away from the Mushroom Kingdom and you've got this new world, you know, the colour palette looks different. The graphics, whilst I do wish they'd have moved away from the new Super Mario Brothers style, just to completely differentiate it, when you look at it properly and really examine it, there are so many little intricate details. It's a really quite beautiful game to look at, you know?
Yeah, it does look amazing. Obviously, I've only played the multiplayer mode with the Kiddlywinks, and it's a decent Mario game. I need to put some real time into it. How long is it? Like, I heard some people saying it was too short.
Well, I say it's standard for, I'd say, you know, anywhere between 8 to 12 hours.
Does it have a level maker?
No.
Okay.
No. But where it fell down for me was multiplayer, funny enough, that you mentioned.
Right.
Because although some people will play it and love it, for my needs for a multiplayer game, you mentioned with the kids, exactly right. My daughter especially, she struggles with these sort of games. And in the past, if they floated off screen or whatever, they come back in a bubble, you'd pop it, you carry on, didn't you?
Yeah.
In this one, if you move away from them too far off the screen, they'll come back as a ghost and you have 5 seconds to touch them, otherwise they die. It just seems an odd choice that they've gone quite harsh, you know, in a game that improved everything else about Mario that's been in the last 10, 15 years. For me, that was a bit of a backstep, so that affected the score, but it's still got a cracking score.
Yeah.
Top score of the month, 93%.
Lovely job. So those are the best games for last month. It was a very good month, actually. I'm not sure how we're looking for November, but already I've seen a few nice ones. So hopefully we'll have another good month this one.
Absolutely. Please do let us know of any games that you played that perhaps we didn't get round to reviewing. What score would you have given them? It's always nice to read. Did you play these games? Again, what would you have given them? Stick it all in the comment section below. As Mark mentioned at the start, there is a link down there to our website. You can get your eShop cards from there. Doing so will earn you 5% cash back via our SwitchUp tokens. You can then obviously use that against a future purchase. But if you use the code SwitchUp, you'll get another 5% off in straight discount. And there's a link down there to Play Asia if you want to import any games. And again, use the link, use the code stated, and you get yourself 5% off of your order from there. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.